Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here, the Three Topics of Gamer, here to give you another episode of my weekly Q&A titled The People's Questions, or answer a series of questions that's been sent to me over the last week. This episode is a little bit sadder, because for this particular episode, we have two questions. There were other questions that I did get in the comment section of the last video, but sadly they were all a little too easy, or they weren't even really questions, they were more like comments. So we didn't really have too much to work with, and it pretty much confirms something that I've been thinking about over the last few months. But we'll talk about that at the end of the video. So before I start getting into these two questions, if you somehow happen to enjoy this video by the end, please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up and press the subscribe button, because every subscription really does count, and I really mean that because I'm kind of concerned about things that are going on in the channel this month, and it's I gotta admit, it's got me a little bit worried about how the rest of this year's gonna play out. So, starting off with the first question, which is a common regular of mine who somehow always seems to pop up first, and that is Brady Burke. And you want to know, do I think that people are no longer being thankful for what they got and just enjoy it? I really like this one. I don't think it's necessarily that people aren't thankful. I think it's just people who have it for so long they kind of want something better. This question had me look at myself. It's not that I'm not thankful for what I have. I'm very thankful, and I know that there are people that have far less than I have, or aren't in the position I have. But when you're in a spot for so long, you kind of always want to see yourself progress. You want to see yourself get better. Even if it's not a massive amount, at least you see some sort of growth. So I think that is where people have that feeling of maybe not being appreciative. But I am very thankful for what I have, because things just take one tiny element out of my life, and it would play out very, very differently. But heck, I do want to be able to, in like 3 years, I'd like to go back and see this is where I was, and this is where I am now, and I'm in a better position. So I think the idea of just enjoying it is not so much the case. It's just people just want to see themselves do better. As we go forward through life, when we get wiser, when we gain more life experiences, we definitely want to see ourselves develop. So that's how I feel about that certain things. But I do think there are a number of people that do take what they have for granted. And as the old saying goes in one of my favorite songs, you don't know what you got till it's gone. So yeah. And the last episode comes from Shadow Dasis Gaming, and you want to know, do I think that a Metal Gear Solid TV series could work? Absolutely. The problem I have with a movie is that, for one, let's be honest, no one knows what Metal Gear is. This is why I have very little hope for something like a Metal Gear Solid movie. Problem is that as Metal Gear Solid is not a marquee franchise anymore, no one knows what it is. There hasn't been a Metal Gear Solid game in like 5 years. I mean, if you actually look at franchises that have video game movies, either they are long-running franchises, which, don't get me wrong, Metal Gear Solid is, but they're franchises that have always made sure to have a game come out every 2 or 3 years, so that it's at least fresh in the minds of the gaming public, because it's really the gamers and the fans that you need to convince first. And for me, that's something that I'm just not very convinced of. And when you look at, and from what I've heard, from what the Metal Gear Solid movie, they're obviously going to try to focus it on Metal Gear Solid. The problem is that game really, if you look at the whole anthology of its storyline, it's really closer towards the end of the story, and there's so much you would have to cut out. I mean, you're working with, you have to think about it in terms of risk. It's like when you look at a story like Metal Gear, you think, okay, what's something you could cut out? It's like, is there anything you can really cut out that isn't all that important? I mean, you have to mention characters like Big Boss, and I think Big Boss is just as big of a character in the franchise as someone like Solid Snake, if not bigger. And you have to talk about the Zanzibar Land riots, and you have to talk about the Les Fontaine project, and you got to talk about all this stuff, like where the idea of Metal Gear came from. Like, this is a lot of stuff that needs to be explained. And even for Metal Gear Solid, there were at least 2 games prior that could fill you in on how things got to where they are. And that's my concern, is that even, like, if it was a television series, like say a 10-part series, like a Netflix series, and each episode was like an hour long, or heck, even like 45 minutes long, you could actually do it in chapters. I think that would be a perfect way to handle a Metal Gear Solid story, because there's just so much to cover and there's so much that you have to mention that explains why characters are the way they are. It's not like something like Star Wars where you can just put someone in a character situation and not ask or not explain why they are the way they are. There are reasons for this, and I think that that is very important to why these characters are the way they are, and that's my big concern. So no, I still don't really have. I still don't have much faith in a movie. Heck, I could be proven wrong, but heck, if they ever do decide to do it like a TV series, I would be totally up for that. So that'll do it for this episode of the People's Questions. If you Okay, I just want to apologize real quick because something happened. I had to stop the camera and I didn't want to catch it on camera, and I have to try to edit it out. But that about does it for this particular episode of People's Questions. I really, really hope a lot of you have some really good questions for next week's episode, which will come out on the 21st, which just so happens to be the day that the next Versus Series matchup will be uploaded. However, the next episode of People's Questions is going to be very, very significant for a number of reasons, which you will find it on the 19th when I upload my anniversary for the channel video. Some people might be shocked, but I think that for me personally, I think it's something that just needs to be done in order to help the channel become better and grow and be a bit more focused. So make sure to hopefully have a very good question that you can send in the comments down below. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I hope to see you guys next week.